Curry Denzel TA13OO Replay Edition. The video. Bitch. We ended the first season of the replay series last year in 2018 with Kendrick Lamar, Damn Reception. Now for my album of the year in 2018, which was Taboo from Denzel Curry, I'm going into the trenches, into the grimy areas of the internet to find the absolute worst opinions I can find of Denzel Curry's Taboo album, right? I'm trying to find things that I disagree with, so if you agree with me, don't say shit. I am aware that people's opinions do change over time, but we're not taking that into consideration. That will require being a reasonable human being, which for the sake of this video, I am refraining from. And if you think that sounds odd, don't rewind the video because I meant what I just said. You all know I appreciated how just realistic and in its reality Taboo was as an album. So I want to see what people have to say about it. You all know I don't really give a shit about other people's opinions when it comes to me giving my own personal opinion about music and albums. That's why I refrain from looking at anyone's opinion until significantly later so I can make a video out of it. Denzel Curry. Wait, what was that? Hold up. No, go back. No, what did that say? Nuggets? Can I get a 4 for 5? No, I'm playing. Taboo review. I just want to see who's gonna disrespect such a masterpiece. Someone mentioned in my last review that going to Pitchfork is interesting because they always feel like they disagree with at least one thing that they say. So let's go in there and see if I can find one thing, but I'm not gonna stay here for too long. How the fuck did this get a 7? In the chaotic arena that is SoundCloud, oh, stop moving. In the chaotic arena that is SoundCloud rap, Denzel Curry has etched out his own distinct realm. Presumably he no. I mean, for the most part, I'm not really seeing too much wrong with what they're saying. I mean, what the fuck? No, what kind of ads? What is that? What was that? I like my ass? No, what are you talking about? Some ears will never adjust to songs like SUMO or the noisy headbanging number Black Metal Terrorist. The dissonance of these tracks owes a debt to rap metal, Apex Twins, and Yeezus. Huh? What the fuck does this have to do with Yeezus? I don't really feel any of Yeezus on Taboo. Yeezus was more of a noise rap ode more than it was rap metal. At least when you're talking about tracks like SUMO and Black Metal Terrorist, while they are rap metal inspired, they still have a very distinct structure to them as songs. The instrumental behind both of those songs is still very connected and still very repetitive. Not in a bad way, it's just it has a theme, it has a rhythm to it. I mean, we can try album of the year. I mean, they've always got great opinions on album of the year, right? This album just doesn't have the bite I thought it would. He kind of played it safe here to me. The last 3 tracks are the top 3 to me. There were also many bad lines on this album. Most of the beats are pretty dime a dozen. Denzel's consistently sticky hooks. What the fuck?
Who asked you to reload?
I don't know what playing it safe means.
Actually, Bill O'Reilly, he did tell you exactly what he meant when he said this. He's just basically saying that for what Denzel Curry has done in the past, he wanted him to do a little bit more. He expected a little bit more going into this project, and it was a little bit of a safe play by the man Curry himself. While this man is still a bitch for disagreeing with my opinion, I 100% understand his take. But I'll offer a rebuttal. Denzel Curry could have easily gone down the wrong path if he'd gone too far. You know, I think including tracks like Taboo, tracks like Black Balloon, Black Metal Terrorist are all within Denzel's comfort zone, yes, but explore a sound that he hasn't really explored too often with his other projects already that sound really great as it fits together on this album. You're getting soul, you're getting rhythm, you're getting trap, you're getting metal. It's all nice and tightly packed into one project as opposed to it going down the wormhole of noise rap.
You mean that he didn't go far enough into the field that he was emulating slightly on this album? Did you want him to go all out metal rapper? I mean, tell me what you want, what you really want. Josh MQ71 thinks Cash Maniac, Super Saiyan Superman, Switch It Up, and The Blackest Balloon are the worst tracks. I mean, that's his opinion, but fuck you. Sorry guys, but this album is a letdown. I admire Denzel Washington. I read Washington. I don't know why I read Washington. His movies haven't been the greatest lately. So if that's who you're mentioning, I mean, this makes sense. Ambition with the lyrics and concepts presented, but parts of the production, especially Act 2, felt lackluster to say the least. Bitch, what the fuck? What is in Act 2 as far as production is concerned That's lackluster. To be or not to be, huh? That mean I'm lit. If it ain't homicide, I don't commit. You have the somber, yet at the same time very ambient, mad I got it. And me, still in the hood and I still sip tea. When I go in, I'ma go for the win. On point like SIRENS and it's like that.
Then expect the royal treatment, talking slick like it's oil, speaking down to earth to my soil, weakened. Venomous words, watching the poison leak.
You have SIRENS, which is also equally as somber as far as the subject matter is concerned. You have CLOUT COBAIN. What is wrong with Act 2? Hand me the cheese. Overrated. You know, I've always been told not to trust people without profile images, so fuck you. I really don't think I'm gonna find an opinion off of album of the year that is detailed enough that I can scrutinize enough. So I'm gonna do something that I never really done before. I'm gonna look for hate, and we're just gonna type in is bad. Don't fuck this up. Act 1 was disappointing. I applaud Denzel for his versatility, but the one feature with the end that I can't pronounce that makes me sound racist to my own fucking race was a bad idea, and Black Balloons was mediocre. Discuss. What did you actually say here? You just said it was disappointing. That's it. It's like you're just being a contrarian. You're not actually saying shit. To be honest, I'm taking back what I said somewhat, re-listening to it all together as one. I love. Shut the fuck. All right. We have Denzel Curry Taboo review that I found on Genius. He starts off by saying, I've been a huge Denzel fan for a while, dick rider. After a 13 last year, I was incredibly excited for Taboo. Denzel released a bit of, I stopped sucking his dick. Wait, what? Hold up. Released a bit of a taster with the You album earlier this year, which was disappointing. It felt like a pretty painfully generic South Florida trap album and left me worried for Denzel's. This was only compounded by the release of single SUMO and CLOUT COBAIN, neither of which left me particularly wanting more. What's wrong with you, you soulless bitch? As a whole, Taboo is pretty hit or miss. Yo, where are my bullshit detectors at? Hold up. As a whole, Taboo is pretty hit or miss. The sing-songy Taboo really doesn't play to Curry's. What the fuck is sing-songy? Do you mean when an artist who raps primarily decides to sing? Is that what you're trying to say? Say that. I didn't feel like Denzel was trying to be a singer. I just felt like he was trying to express through harmony the trauma, what is actually taboo. In the very first track, he mentions this girl, which we find out later to actually be himself. He was taboo the entire time. We find that he's talking about molestation, he's talking about trauma, all these things that should and are supposed to be taboo, all while having a sound very reminiscent to people like Outkast. I'm not against a down-tempo Curry song, but this just comes off as oddly sappy and out of character. I don't see anything what is sappy about Taboo? I see it as very dark. Honestly, the fucking chorus is all I know is permanent scars and tattoos.
What's sappy about that?
Black Balloons keeps the same instrumental style and really doesn't add much in its verses. The Goldlink feature is passable. I agree with you there. But again, just doesn't stand out at all. CAZH Maniac has a couple clever bars. See my future, but I'm not B-Rabbit. Stands out as a clever 8 Mile reference and commentary on Curry's career. And then we got to SUMO, which I didn't hate as the first single. But every time I hear it, it gets worse and worse. The beat is painfully generic, the hook just isn't catchy, and we get such lyrical flourishes as pray for me to fall like autumn. You're just a bitch. I'm assuming when he says the beat's painfully generic for, you know, SUMO is that it has that obvious bass to it, that extreme bass drop. The thing about the hook not being catchy, I could see his point, but it's not just the hook that's catchy, it's more like the song that's catchy to me. It's almost like the soundtrack that you would get from like an Undertaker entering the ring. He even has vocal references to the Yin Yang Twins. He has references, in my opinion, to DMX. These rappers gave nothing but energy to these tracks, so if you're giving nothing but energy, I don't see why you wouldn't have a bass heavy beat. And in context to the album, it makes more sense because he's talking about this is how I feel now that I've got money. Bitch. Super Saiyan Superman does nothing new either, rehashing the same references Curry has made his entire career, complete with the more great lines like she better blah 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 blah. Then we finally get to switch it up, the first decent song on the album after 15 pretty painful minutes. You call the intro to the album painful, you probably need to suck it. Don't get me wrong, Switch It Up would still be a weak track if you stuck it on Imperial, then don't fucking put it on Imperial. But it's much more listenable than anything else so far. Sirens doesn't disappoint either. It's the best Denzel verse so far, and J.I.D absolutely kills it. It's also the first time on the album that any of Denzel's conscious hip-hop efforts really hit home. Then after that, this idiot has the nerve to say CLOUT COBAIN is not worth listening to. After you just got through saying that he just get... Oh my, did you listen to the album, you idiot fuck? CLOUT COBAIN is literally about young rappers being taken advantage of by the industry. What do you mean it's not worth listening to? In context of this album and in the whole, you know, in all of the events that happened in 2006 or 2018 with people like Mac Miller, people like Lil Peep. Vengeance is by far the best track on the record. JPEG, Mafia, and Zillakami are charismatic and lyrical. Denzel actually sounds energetic, and the hook does its job. I would say Vengeance has probably one of the most toned down hooks on the entire album. How does the hook for Vengeance do its job, but not the hook for SUMO, not the hook for CLOUT COBAIN, not the hook for a lot of other tracks on here? Denzel Curry has always been a punchline rapper masquerading as trap's conscious savior? No, the fuck he hasn't. But on Imperial and 13, he did it well. What are you talking about?
Retarded, bro. Oh my god.
Everything about Taboo is just corny, though. From the downright goofy album covers for each act to the completely random usage of numbers and misspellings in song titles to numerous eye-roll-worthy bars, there's so much wrong with Taboo, and I'm disappointed. Yet you still managed to give it a 7 out of 10. From the way you talk about it, it's almost as if you pretty much only enjoyed the last leg of it, although you say you don't mind a good portion of it. You're making it seem like misspellings in song titles make or break the actual sound of the music or the album cover, like that has any impact on what you're hearing. How did I even get here? Well, this is weird. This is an overrated by hip-hop fans online, but underappreciated, relatively unknown by the general public. I do like several songs on here, but his overall approach is kind of elementary to me. He wants credit for being / appearing deep without typically ever getting deep. Deep is just so relative, though. It's always dependent on how it impacts the person, if you looked at it in a deep way versus if the person looked at it in a deep way. That's why I hate the term fake deep or fake woke. His inclination to turn suicide into a punchline doesn't sit right with me when in other points of the record he doesn't refer to death lightly. That's because he's not in the same mental place at other points in the album, because in one moment he might refer to it as if it has some heavy weight to it, and in another, like on Black Metal Terrorist, he might refer to suicide as if it's no big deal, because at that point, mentally, he doesn't give a fuck. It's less used as a punchline and more used as a reference to how someone's mental changes over time. Wow, well, the only good thing I can say about it is the first act has a tolerable neo-soul sound, that's it. Why is it in acts? Why do they have weird alternate lead speed titles? Why is he even trying to say? What is he even trying to say? It feels like an awkward combination of every major critically acclaimed hip-hop album in the past few years and has no independent vision, especially with how much he lifts from Kendrick. What? Rips off his flows? His voice he uses sometimes, and the air of pretension is present as... Never heard anyone vocally compare Denzel Curry to Kendrick Lamar. Nobody needs to listen to this for any reason when everything can do what this album does better, even if only a little bit. See, this is why you don't take people's word for things and you check things out yourself. Because let's say I listen to this guy.
This bitch, don't sugarcoat it, this bitch, okay? If I'd have listened.
There doesn't seem to be any topical or compositional reasoning for the 3 parts in the album, and generally it's all over the place. I don't know if I've listened to an album in 2018 that was so obvious in its theme that the rapper almost didn't have to explain it. I only really like Curry when he takes the narrative role of a sort of villainous entity, as directly implied in tracks like Black Metal wrong. The fact that you mistook him for the villain on Black Metal Terrorist is precisely why you didn't listen to the album. He's not trying to portray himself as the villain. He, at the same time, is saying that he's the one that has the warped mentality. He's not a villain, he's just someone who's a product of their environment. He's a guy who at some one point had a lighter approach to life and a lighter outlook on it, but as he goes through life and lives so much more in his reality, and his reality is dictated by his past and his experiences in the present, he becomes this character. It's not a villain, it's just your environment taking you. Some of the most forgettable rapping I've ever heard, and mostly extremely poppy beats, makes for one of the year's biggest disappointments. I think we need to come up with a new definition for the word poppy. Poppy are songs that I generally find to be easily accessible, songs that you don't really have to challenge your ear enough or very much to enjoy, songs that are repetitive in nature as it pertains to what exists in the current landscape. So if you can bring to me artists who emulate Denzel's style enough other than the SoundCloud rap aesthetic, that also have some of the lyrical capabilities and tight flows that he does on this album, then you might be able to use the word poppy, because that would mean the sound at that point would be saturated enough to where you would define it as popular. But that sound isn't popular enough for you to call it poppy. This whole thing just feels like a failed attempt at a... Wait, okay. This whole thing feels just like another failed attempt at chasing that artsy rap trend like others like Kanye and Death Grips inspired. First of all, I don't get how the fuck Taboo sounds anything like Death Grips. Second, you in this very same review just said this is extremely poppy. Now you're calling it artsy. Make up your fucking mind. This album is proof that a good MC can be applied and have skill, but even though everything could be fine here if we stick to a more purist aspect, however, I cannot ignore the feeling that even with all the apparently correct elements, it still does not produce on me. The idea of having heard something memorable because all it lacks or all its tricks are extremely recognizable and predictable, and that's sad. This fucking paragraph is proof that you can type out all this shit and not say nothing. Yeah, like, shut up. Oh, thanks. I think that's about as far as I'm gonna go, because I just read like all 84 of those reviews, and I've been sitting here for a cool minute. And no one's changed my mind on this being a great album. So, fuck you. I'm gonna be doing this soon with more albums that have a way less obvious kind of reception to them. Because even though I enjoyed Taboo, and it seems from a lot of the reviews that I've read right now, a lot of other people do as well. I've actually had to fish for people who didn't like this record. The ones in the future are gonna have a lot more deferring opinions. But Taboo to me is a great body of work that literally goes into as much detail as I feel Denzel could have gone into when it comes to living in one's own reality and being shaped by your environment. Purity, ambience, and beautiful soul of a track like Taboo being tainted by life itself as it goes through this album and ends up as a black metal terrorist, as we get Denzel giving this raw, very devilish energy on that track. Compare Taboo to that, and you see how life changes people. That's kind of what I took more away from the album, and I can describe this thing in so many different ways, but it hit home so much because I feel there's a bigger struggle in trying to maintain who you are while going through life, trying to refrain from being tainted by your environment. I think that's the biggest struggle in this album. As you move forward, how do you go through and live in your reality while not getting any dirt on you? But that's just how I feel about this album. All the opinions in this video are my own, and the bad opinions of other users of Rate Your Music and some of the other websites that I've checked out. But I'm gonna leave it at that. I'll see y'all next time, and I'm out. Bye.